There are certainly two position groups the Saints will have their hands full this weekend when they entertain the Buccaneers. More on that as we get into the ACME Oyster House afternoon wrap right now. Hi again, everybody. With John DeShazier, I'm Sean Kelley. Welcome into the Oyster Sports Performance Center, where the Saints continue to prepare for Week 1 opponent Tampa Bay. Two position groups that certainly garner a lot of preparation, John, when talking about the Buccaneers. Defensive line and, of course, then their wide receiver core. Headliners in both groups.
Yeah, well, you got Gerald McCoy along that defensive line, and I mean, he's one of the premier defensive linemen in the league, a perennial Pro Bowler. In fact, the Saints coaching staff got a chance to work with him a little bit in Orlando this past season now. Not as intense as it would be during the regular season, but still they got a chance to work with him some. And then that receiver core, you're talking about Deshaun Jackson, the speedster, and then Mike Evans, who is a hulking human being as a wide receiver, but he's a guy who can run all the routes. He's a particularly dangerous receiver in third downs. They've got some weapons.
Yes, no doubt. Let's start with that defensive line. Gerald McCoy, obviously well known to most anyone who follows the NFL, and especially a veteran like quarterback Drew BREES.
You know, I trained with Gerald, have for the last, feels like 10 years, out in San Diego, and he's he's a workhorse. He's a guy who's got a real high motor. All the time, whether it's obviously I think he gets a lot of notoriety as being a pass rusher. Lots of sacks, lots of tackles for loss and such. Throughout the season, but man, he's a force to be reckoned with. I think in the run game and at all times. He's just one of those guys that is an elite player at his position. Amongst other guys in the league, and so always a guy you got to have a plan for.
Of course, it's not just McCoy up there, and TERRON, ARMSTEAD, and the offensive line know that across the board, Tampa Bay's front is as good as any.
Sure, they brought in some experienced guys that have been well decorated. JPP, for one, he was at his pinnacle, an all-pro, pass rusher and run defender. So they got some guys up front, and Tampa's defense has always been fast and physical. So you can count on them to bring that. But we have to come with our physicality too, so we can get off to a fast start.
All right, then there's that other position group, and it's on the other side of the football, the Tampa Bay wide receivers. It all starts there with Mike Evans, doesn't it?
Yeah, he is a beast of a human being. About 6'5" or so, about 230, can run the deep routes. He can do the intermediate stuff. He's extremely physical. Now, we know that he had an altercation last year with MARSHON LATTIMORE that certainly does not leave the Saints with a good taste or a good feeling about him, but he's a talented player.
Yeah, COLEMAN, the new veteran strong safety for the New Orleans Saints, obviously coming from the Carolina Panthers, has a read on this divisional opponent and scouts that entire wide receiving core for us.
I mean, you look at the older guy, Deshaun Jackson, who I used to play with, but I mean, guy still has it. I mean, he's still running 4.3, 4.4s. And then you look at Mike Evans. I mean, they have Godwin, and then you look at the two tight end pieces that they have, very athletic tight ends. They have a lot of people that they can get the ball to and make a lot of big plays. So we have a lot of challenges ahead of us. But like I said, I'm excited about what we have in front of us, because ultimately, if we take care of our job, it doesn't matter who we play. I feel like we can match up with anybody.
Well, John, you mentioned MARSHON LATTIMORE. I know one thing, he'll obviously be matched up against Mike Evans, but I think maybe one of the key spots in the game will be Mike Evans versus whomever. Could be Lattimore on third down.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's their target on third down. They like to go to him. And MARSHON LATTIMORE says they like to throw him those back routes where he's on the backside, kind of isolated one-on-one. And you need a cornerback like a MARSHON LATTIMORE. But again, Mike Evans is a big target, extremely physical, so they're going to have to be wary of that.
Yeah, Lattimore and his teammates, and some of them are new and they're just jumping into this, but especially Lattimore, not real happy with the way that the Saints defense played on third down last year. It's an emphasis this season.
I don't really see no good in our third down. But sacks, we had a lot of sacks and takeaways, but our third down numbers is at the bottom of the league, so I didn't really like our third down last year. So just going into this year, man, that's a staple for us, get off the field on third down.
Well, as far as practice goes today, John, you and I observed a little bit. We did note that Joshua Laribas appears to be in that starting position at guard.
Yeah, Andrews Pete missed yesterday's practice with a quad injury. It looks like he might not be able to go, certainly slow going. We'll continue to monitor that as the week goes on. I know Coach Payton said it was day-to-day for Andrews, but again, him not being out there with the ones kind of leads you to believe that he might not be available for the opening game.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye on the injury report. Of course, it'll be yours this afternoon at NewOrleansSaints.com and on your Saints mobile app. John, the other thing that we got to keep our eye on here over the next 24 to 48 hours is the Saints running back situation. At the moment, what is it? It's 2 right now.
Yeah, it could be a little bit fluid. Again, Coach Payton alluded to the fact that they've never had 2 running backs going into a game. So that leads you to believe that they might be willing to add another body going into that regular season opener. Could it be Jonathan Williams, a kid who played pretty well in the preseason and got cut and he's on the practice squad now? Maybe, because you want somebody who's at least familiar with what they're doing. Yeah, and we'll also kind of keep an eye on Boston Scott, too, who was released by the Saints. But, John, I think folks need to know that if he clears waivers today, there's a possibility he can come back in some form or fashion. Yeah, they like what he did in preseason, just probably situationally needed to make an adjustment, needed to add some offensive linemen, but certainly he could be a candidate to be back and on the active roster. All right, one more full day of practice. That's tomorrow here at the Oyster Sports Performance Center. Game day will be here before you know it. For John DeShazier, I'm Sean Kelley. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and we'll see you next time here on the ACME Oyster House Afternoon Wrap.